Hello, and welcome back to Nora's Stories. I'm Nora, and today I'm going to tell you about a dream that I had before I started keeping a dream journal. The dream started in a very large church. I was running from people that I didn't quite know, but I knew that they were chasing me for some reason, and I just knew that I had to get away from them. So, as I ran through the church, every door that I went through led to a place that wasn't quite where it was supposed to lead. Doorways on one side of the church would lead to rooms on the other, and there were trapdoors and hidden panels everywhere that led to rooms that didn't actually exist in the real building. Sometimes I would even go into a room through a door, and that door was the only way in or out of the room. But when I tried to leave through the same door, it would take me to a different place from where I had just come from. These three individuals that were chased me everywhere through this church. No matter where I went, even when I entered a secret panel, they would be right after me, like they knew exactly where I was every step of the way. After a while, I managed to find an exit and got outside of the church building. I remember when I got outside, it was cold, and I was wearing, it almost felt like a costume, a shirt, skirt, and petticoats underneath, with a cloak that I was wearing with a hood. I remember looking back toward the church, and I could see my pursuers coming down one of the staircases and pushing the glass doors open to come outside after me. So I turned back around to where I was headed, and I realized I was carrying a baby girl. She was asleep, but I could tell that she was just on the verge of sleep, so if I moved too quickly or made too much noise, I knew she'd wake up and probably start crying. I carefully tucked her under my cloak as I began walking toward my home, which was across the street from the church. Just as I was able to tuck her under the cloak and get her out of sight, the pursuers caught up to me. By some miracle, they didn't realize that I was the same person that they were chasing through the church, and they asked me if I had seen a girl with a baby. I knew that I couldn't tell them that I was the girl with the baby, so I said no. One of the men that was chasing me, for some reason, decided that he was going to be a gentleman, and said that it was too dark and cold for a woman to be walking alone by herself, and they offered to walk me to my destination. I tried to brush it off since I was just going across the street to my home, and I was worried that the longer they were with me, the more suspicious they would get that I was the person that they were actually chasing, and also they would realize that I had the baby, or that the baby would wake up and start crying. Unfortunately, I was not able to convince these men that it was fine for me to walk to my home on my own, and they insisted on walking me right up to my front door. By a stroke of luck, the baby remained asleep, and I was able to shut and lock the door without her making any noise or being noticed by my pursuers. Once the door was closed, I remember peeking outside the window, and I saw them turn around to leave, but they were looking everywhere like they were looking for me, and they just seemed completely stumped as to where the girl that they were chasing had disappeared to. Although I hadn't written this dream down, the reason I always remembered it is that it's one of my recurring dreams. I've had this exact dream two or three different times. It always ended the same, even though sometimes the doors and pathways that were in the church changed. Still, it always seemed to end with my pursuers walking me home and keeping me safe without realizing that I was the person that they were trying to find. It still makes me wonder why I would have a dream like that, and what importance that child held that she was so greatly sought after. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll share more again soon.